Okay, let's practice a part 2 speaking. Remember, the examiner will give you a card and you have to follow the instructions on the card. For example, a place you've never been to. Talk about a place in your country you have never been to but would like to visit. You should say why you have never visited that place, why you would like to go there, what you would like to do there, and say if you think most people would enjoy going to that place or not, and why. Notice the key question words: why, what to do, and again why. Also notice the verb tenses: have visited, present perfect; would like to, imaginary; would like to, would enjoy going, also imagining. So you need to plan. You only have 1 minute, but you need to practice at home and get better and better and faster. So here is an example. I'm going to imagine that I am a Spanish-speaking IELTS student and I come from Colombia. And I live in the south of Colombia, and the place I would really like to go to but have never been to is Cartagena in the north of Colombia. So firstly, I have to think about why I've never been there. And I quickly write some points. It's too far away, it's too expensive. Just write some points here. The next thing was why I want to go there. I really need to write some good vocabulary down, like colonial heritage, museums, old cobblestone streets. Try and use this planning minute to record good vocabulary on your piece of paper. The next thing was what I'd like to do there. And the last thing was whether I think most people would like to go there and why. Notice I've put the word definitely, not just yes. This will give you a higher vocabulary score. LP means Lonely Planet, which is a travel guide. Try to be as specific as possible. If you can plan well, then you can link between the circles. Okay, I'm going to read this student's model, and hopefully you can read along with me. Here we go. That's easy to answer. The place in my country where I'd absolutely love to go is Cartagena. Even though it's probably the most famous city in Colombia, I've never been there because it is too far away from my home in the south. Cartagena is situated right in the north on the Caribbean Sea. So my parents always said it was too far and too expensive to visit. Anyway, we used to go to my grandparents' house on holidays. And why do I want to go there? Well, where do I start? All the tourists go there for the great atmosphere, the colonial history, and the famous museums and clubs. It's really beautiful too. The colourful old buildings and its location on the sea make it charming. Everyone agrees. As for what I'd do there, I've always wanted to go to one particular famous club. It's called Café Havana and has Cuban food and music. I hear it's amazing. Then, of course, there are all the museums and lovely cobblestone streets to walk through, not to mention all the water activities like swimming and sailing. I'm sure I wouldn't run out of things to do. Oh, I almost forgot. I'd also squeeze in a day trip to the mud baths near Totumo volcano. That would be awesome. And finally, I reckon everyone wants to visit Cartagena because it has a great mix of cultural heritage with being a party town at the same time. Did you know it's a World Heritage Site? And I read in Lonely Planet, well, they describe it as a fairy tale city. So who wouldn't want to go there? So that is a particularly high-level model for a Part 2 response. Why is it so good? Firstly, the student shows specific vocabulary. I'll let you read through this list. Could you talk like this? So the first feature was very good and specific vocabulary. The second feature is the student has clear structure with appropriate linking techniques. Even though, because, the word so is used twice, anyway, and why do I want to go there? You can use questions as a linking technique. There's the adverb to, then of course, not to mention, I'd also, and finally. Now I've highlighted these on the next slide. Have a look. Even though it's probably the most famous city in Colombia, I've never been there because it is too far away. Anyway, we used to go to my grandparents. And why do I want to go there? It's really beautiful too. That's a good technique if you want to add a point quickly. As for, that's a good technique to change to the next topic. Then, of course, there are all the museums and lovely cobblestone streets to walk through, not to mention blah blah blah. Oh, I almost forgot. I'd also squeeze in a day trip. And finally, I reckon everyone wants to visit Cartagena because, and the student continues. All of these words highlighted in red show the examiner that you can use linking techniques properly. Don't forget that in IELTS Speaking, 1/4 of your score comes from pronunciation. So you also need to practice for correct sounds, yes, but also the stress, how you emphasize and distinguish between ideas. For example, all the tourists go there for the great atmosphere, the colonial history, and the famous museums and clubs. It's really beautiful too. Did you hear how I stressed a couple of adjectives and adverbs? This was stressing for meaning. And here it is again. You can read through it carefully at your leisure. So I thank you so much for watching this presentation. I really hope it helps you reach for a higher score and achieve your goals. And please, don't hesitate to contact me if you'd like a one-on-one lesson.